Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for a 30-minute presentation where take you through all about Zinzino products. So it gives me pleasure to do that. And those of you who don't know, my name is Margie Dangerfield. I'm a registered nurse and a midwife, speaker, and an independent Zinzino partner here in Australia. So it was 6 years ago, I actually got introduced to the company while I was working full time. As a nurse, I was in charge of a busy IVF clinic in Brisbane and started using these products and then sharing it with my colleagues. And that transitioned for me now sharing this business and the products and educating other healthcare professionals around the world. So let me tell you a little bit more about Zinzino as a company. We are a global health and wellness company. We're from Scandinavia, but we've been around for 20 years. In fact, this year is the 20th anniversary of Zinzino. But not many people know about us here in Australia. Why? Because we've only been here for 6 years. And being a direct-to-consumer business, we share the products and the business with people through meaningful conversations and educating our community. But the company is extraordinary. It's the reason I aligned with them is because they are science-based and they deliver to the products to over 100 countries globally. So it is e-commerce business, and I have many people that I'm helping improve their health from all over the world. So it is a publicly traded company, which is fantastic as well. So it is extraordinary when you think about science and research because there's not a lot of companies who are using test-based nutrition. In fact, there are none that I know of who are looking at a global health concern, which is what we have identified with Zinzino, and that is a omega-3 deficiency globally. So not only to have our research scientists and some of the brightest minds in the world of pharmaconutrition working on the product portfolios that we share with people to improve their health, that we're at the cutting edge of science. And if you do know anything about research and science, it usually takes about 17 years for it to trickle down into practical terms in the community. But Zinzino addressing it head on and equipping us with the tools through test-based nutrition to show a measurable change at the cell membrane, which is a key factor that is driving chronic disease throughout the world. Now, the test that we use is actually a independent third-party laboratory test. So we only send our tests to VITAS Analytical Lab. It's GMP certified, and they are world leaders in dry blood spot tests. So it's an anonymous test and non-identifying information. So it goes across to the lab and the results are emailed back to you within a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. Now, as I said, this is not new. We've been around for 20 years and we've tested 1.5 million people globally. And when we look at the data, which I'll share with you shortly, which is about to be published by a peer review study, we can show you that 97% of the population are actually out of balance. And this is quite disturbing with their essential fatty acids, because when we have this imbalance at the cell membrane, that's what drives chronic disease. So let me talk to you just briefly about what is omega-6 and what is omega-3 and why are we measuring this? Because first of all, it's important to know that we were designed, so our bodies were designed to have a DNA formation of 1 part omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. Now, in the world of health, that biomarker, that balance of omega-6 to 3 should not be greater than 3 to 1. So that's the recommended level. If you go higher than that, you have chronic inflammatory stress. So if you want to protect your health from a preventative health space, you need to make sure that ratio is below 3 to 1. Okay. Now, what is omega-6? Well, omega-6 is something that we need. Our body needs it. It's an essential nutrient. But unfortunately, in our modern day world, there is an abundance of it, and it's hidden in a lot of our processed and ultra processed foods. You just need to look on the back of a package. So we're consuming it in really large quantities. And the way we've eaten has changed so dramatically from when you think about how our grandparents and our great grandparents used to eat from the land and whole foods. And there was a lot of fiber and lots of nutrient rich soil. There was little spraying or pesticides or toxic chemical loads that were there. And then there was a lot more abundance of omega-3 as well. So omega-6 is your vegetable oils, your corn oil, your soy, your canola oil, your palm oil, everything like that. So, which is being fed to all our animals today. So even the animals, unless you're eating wild caught fish or organic grass finished meat, the animals that through this transition over the years into how we farm our animals today, then we are also eating animals high in omega-6 as well. So this is what we call the nutrition transition. As we've transitioned from the 1960s and we've seen multinational food companies and industrialization take place, where we live in this fast-paced modern day world, our ratios unfortunately are skyrocketing because there's two things that concern: one, abundance of omega-6. The other is we cannot find enough wild caught oily fatty fish to feed our family. So that's omega-3. So omega-3 is predominantly oily fatty fish, algae, chia seeds, flax seeds, but that conversion to omega-3 is very low. So that's why it's important to test, because this balance, as I said, of omega-6 to 3 should not be higher than 3 to 1. So this has also been around, this information, for a long time, and it's well documented in literature that if you are looking at disease and all-cause mortality, you're at higher risk of developing certain types of disease processes if you have a high ratio. So that's what we're doing at Zinzino. We're measuring this ratio and then we're driving it down into a safe zone so you can protect your health as you age. So I don't know about you, but I want to age well and not with the chronic disease and not dependent on a pharmaceutical medication. So we know that we were designed to have that 1-to-1 ratio. But unfortunately, our Western diet, we're lending to see ratios around 15 to 1, which is quite frightening. But we know that if we can reduce a ratio on someone to below 4 to 1, we can reduce the total mortality risk by 70%, which is huge. The same thing with certain types of cancers. And we know that cancer is on the rise at the moment. So the most protective thing that you can do for yourself is to make sure this ratio is below 3 to 1. And of course, inflammatory conditions, autoimmune conditions, the root cause of all non-communicable diseases is inflammation. And that ratio of omega-6 to 3 is the biomarker of inflammation. So it's very well known from a cardiovascular health perspective. As I said, we can have a huge impact on preventing people from cardiac disease, heart attacks, strokes, blood pressure by reducing this ratio. So very, very important. It's in the literature. And we now know that, and this is something that we measure because we measure 11 of your essential fats. So yes, we're looking at the biomarker of omega-6 to 3, but we also look at your omega-3 index. And that is well known now as a predictor of your longevity. So if you have a low omega-3 index, you're actually shortening your lifespan. And just as a strong predictor, as we knew years ago, people would say, if you're a smoker, you will die early. Now we can say the same thing because the evidence is there and from the literature that if you have a low omega-3 index, you will die earlier. So let's talk about how this affects us in our bodies when we're talking about cellular inflammation. So this is a cell. And what I want you to understand this is that if you don't have enough omega-3 on the surface area of your cell, because you are just made up of 37 trillion cells. And if you're not correct at a cellular level, you cannot be well architecturally. So that membrane, or the outer surface area of every cell in your body, is made up of many things, but predominantly fats. And those essential fats, omega-6 and 3, is where we're measuring that ratio. So if there's not enough omega-3 on the surface membrane of your cell, the cell membrane forms a hard, rigid surface. So that means other nutrients don't readily enter the cell. They can't go through the cell membrane as well. Therefore, the mitochondria is compromised, oxidative stress goes up, cell signaling, everything's compromised with your cells, and toxins and waste don't escape as well. So your cells are constantly replicating themselves, and they will replicate more unhealthy cells. And the cells are all connected through what we call the extracellular matrix. And as that starts to degenerate because of this inflammatory process, that's when we start to see all sorts of things go wrong with your health. And it could be something as subtle as brain fog. Okay, our brain is an extremely fatty organ. 60% is fat, and the majority of it is DHA. Now, your omega-3 is made up of EPA and DHA, so we measure that and we can tell you, do you have enough for good brain function? You could be forgetting things in the workplace. You may be going through menopause and just thinking that's normal. No, it's not. All those symptoms are driven by inflammation. We also know your mood, whether you're at risk of depression, or even it may just be you have a history of dementia, or you're worried about cognitive decline as you age. So that's the brain. The hair also, we know if you have optimal values of these essential nutrients, you will have much stronger hair. And I know a lot of people who have corrected their ratios and their hair is growing back and they've gone from thin, papery, balding hair. Cardiovascular disease, okay, we have talked about that already. Skin elasticity. If you have a lot of inflammation, we call it inflammaging, and your skin can become thin, papery, and wrinkled beyond your years, meaning that you are accelerating the aging process because of your inflammation. So when you get back into balance, you will see more elastic, more dewy complexion, and a thicker, plumper skin, because you'll no longer be destroying the collagen production in your skin either. So all of your organs start to become affected, because if you think about the cells degenerating the extracellular matrix, then it goes on and destroys the ligaments and the joints, and eventually the organs, and finally the bones start to degenerate. So one of the things that a lot of people complain of as they age is achy joints and muscles, and they think, I'm just getting old. No, that is a sign of inflammation. So what we're doing at Zinzino, if you're worried about any of these health challenges, we're achieving the balance of omega-6 to 3 in 120 days with our protocol. And what we're doing is we're restoring normal function of your cells by repairing the cell membrane integrity. So what does that mean? Well, we are getting omega-3 to the surface area of your cell membrane, allowing the cell to be soft and supple so it can repair and the nutrients can then readily flow in. We can control oxidative stress, we can improve mitochondrial function, and toxins and waste can escape readily. Now, what happens to your body when you restore this cell membrane integrity? Your cells then will go on and replicate healthy cells. And that's when we see the healing and the transformation of conditions that people tell us on a day-to-day basis. And this program we see with the test and retest is 120 days, because that's the life cycle of the blood cell. So we don't want you to have or be in out of balance. And the interesting thing is you can look well on the outside, but if you haven't been tested, you could be having what we call silent chronic inflammation. And silent inflammation can be there for decades before it appears in a chronic disease. So this is something you need to test. So I guess my question for you after listening to this information is, would you like to get tested? Because I definitely did. When a friend of mine said to me, Margie, would you like to take the test? And I said, absolutely, because at the time I'd been taking omega supplements for 20 years. And guess what? I was still in the danger zone. I couldn't believe it. And I'll share my results with you in a moment. But this is all beneath the surface. And you could be eating well, but if you're not sourcing enough omega 3, you can still be out of balance. So it's very easy to do. It is designed to be an at-home test, and it looks very similar like a blood glucose. So you just prick your finger and drop 2 drops of blood onto filter paper, let it dry, and then you register the test code. So again, there's no name, there's no personal details. It's just data collection. So we need to know what country the sample's coming from, because when you put it into the envelope, and in the envelope there's a sticker in Australia to send to your Brisbane office, and we ship them to Norway twice a week, and the test results are emailed back to you with whatever email address you register your test code with. So we also have a money back guarantee, and I love this. I don't know if you've ever been to the doctor, spent lots of money on bloods, and when they say your bloods are fine, they give you your money back. We do that at Zinzino. So if your test result was to come back below 3 to 1 and all the target values were in the optimal range, Zinzino will return your the cost of the test to you, which is extraordinary. So again, the test is housed at an independent third-party laboratory in Norway. This is the Oslo Science Park. I've been there. I've met the CEO. It's extraordinary. All the research universities around the world use this science lab for the dry blood spot testing because of the accuracy. It's a GMP certified analytical lab. So Zinzino don't know that you're sending a test to this lab. The lab don't know who you are because it's non-identifying information, and there is only one code for one person. So I want to share now with you the data that's been collected. And this is the information that's going to be published very soon in peer-reviewed literature. So as we can show you on the left column where it says no omega-3s, this is the AA arachidonic acid, and EPA is omega-3. So the omega-6 to 3 ratio, when we've tested people who are not taking omega supplements, they're just eating their normal dietary patterns. So the red blood cell is a window into what you've consumed as far as your essential fats in the last 120 days, which is far more accurate than doing plasma. So it's a really good indicator of understanding what you're eating and are you getting enough of these essential fats in balance. And as you can see, the global data that's been collected is 14.8. So we've got a world out of balance. We know that. Now, what was most concerning for me when I took the test was I was an omega-3 user. And if you're listening, you might be too. And if you are, I would strongly encourage you to get tested, because I had spent a lot of money on omega supplements only to discover I had a ratio of 8.5 to 1. I was out of balance. So that really got me thinking, and I wanted to understand why. So I'm going to share that information with you tonight. Now, as you can see, the ratios coming back from omega-3 users are a little bit better than people not using omega-3, because you do get some absorption into your tissues with these formulations. However, there's no secondary bioavailability, meaning the products are oxidizing before they reach the cell membrane. And we know how important it is to have that balance in the cell membrane. Now, we understand now that commercial grade fish oil is ineffective at achieving this ratio. But we do know Zinzino, through their science and research, they formulated a unique polyphenol omega-3. It's an olive polyphenol omega-3 that when you take it for 120 days and we do the retest at an independent lab, so they have no idea what the first test was, because it's a different code. It's not matched to any name or anything like that. So when you take the second test, we can show you in our data that your ratio will be below 3 to 1. And we can confidently show that in 95% of our consumers, which is incredible. So why is it that Zinzino balance oil works and commercial grade fish oil doesn't? Well, it's because it's not fish oil. It is more like oily fish in a bottle with olive oil. So it's far more effective. So it's what nature intended. The fish in the ocean eat the algae. The algae is what protects the omega molecules. When the refining process occurs through companies, fish oil companies, they strip out that protective um, polyphenol. So Zinzino, instead of adding back an inferior antioxidant, they have added back a polyphenol, which is in the form of a extremely high polyphenol. So this is not like the normal olive oil you're using on your salad. This is early harvested picule olives, and they have an extremely high polyphenol. So that synergy of those two combined with wild caught oily fatty fish, and there's vitamin D3 in it. That's what brings people back into balance. And it's the olive oil that protects and chaperones the omega molecules so they're safely transported into your cell membrane. So I wanted to share this as well so you have a good understanding what I'm talking about with oxidative stability index. Now, some of you, like me, might be taking a commercial grade fish oil. I was taking a very good practitioner brand and only to discover it was oxidizing prior to reaching the cell membrane. And as you can see, after testing, they've shown us that in 9 hours, commercial grade fish oil that is formulated with vitamin E, and most of them are out there, or rosemary oil, they're oxidizing very quickly. So they don't reach the cell membrane and they won't bring you back into balance. Krill oil has almost next to no protection, so it was really popular some time ago. Cod liver oil's commonly used and really popular with a lot of practitioners. It's slightly better in the oxidation, but again, when we're testing people using cod liver oil, again, it is an inferior antioxidant, so it doesn't reach the cell membrane, so you will still remain out of balance. But when you use olive oil with oily fish, it is a completely different story. It's stable for 35 hours and it's safely able to completely adjust and repair the cell membrane integrity. And that's what we love about Zinzino. So I wanted to share with you my results. As I said, I got tested almost 6 years ago to the day. Look, unbelievable. And uh, yeah, I was out of balance. Now, at the time, I had joint pain, brain fog, low energy, low mood. I had all the perimenopausal symptoms. Now, the symptoms of perimenopause are driven by inflammation. Now, I didn't know that at the time. I just thought that was normal. Um, and of course, I then swapped over to the balance oil. So I started taking 10 mils of balance oil a day because it's personalized dose by weight. So that's unique in itself. And in 120 days, I was 2.4. But the best thing for me was within 3 weeks of being on the balance oil, my joint pain disappeared. And I couldn't believe it. I was actually astounded. My joint pain disappeared that I'd had for a couple of years. My brain fog left. I started to remember things in the workplace. My hair, my skin, my nails, everything started improving the longer I'd been on it. And actually, my vision improved as well, which I wasn't even expecting. That was quite a surprise for me. And of course, I've gone on to continue testing, and I have maintained being in balance because I continue to take this nutrient that our body requires fundamentally to have good health. And we can't source it through the modern day diet. So I don't get sick. I don't fall over with the flu, the colds. I might get a sore throat or a swollen gland for 24 hours and I'm done. That's it. My health has completely transformed and I have more energy today than I had 6 years ago. So the importance of this ratio is there. You can go and look up in PubMed and you will just type in what's the importance of the omega-6 3 ratio and do your own research. Make sure you understand. This is well documented in the literature. What we're doing at Zinzino is turning the curve and changing public health by bringing back people back into balance. So when we look at people's tests, as I said, this has been around for 20 years in Europe when they started testing. the ratios, even in the high fish eating countries, they were still showing they were out of balance. But again, we have just touching the surface with only maybe 1% of the population. When we look at Australia, and if you want to go and have a look at the stats, you can go to zinzinotest.com and you can look through all the global stats. So you can go to any country and find out how many tests have we done there, what are the ratios before their first test and after. And as you can see, Australia, we've only tested 14,000 people. So we've got a lot of work to do. New Zealand opened last month or 2 months ago. The Philippines is opening tomorrow. So we're expanding into many, many countries. So if you're thinking of someone who you would like to help with their health or yourself, please let us know. Get back to the person who invited you to the call so we can help you and your community get back into balance. So if you don't like the oil, and it's one shot a day, you measure the dose. So on average, it's between 10 to 12 or 15 mils, depending on your weight. And it's one shot a day. So you measure the dose, top it up with water, and take it as a shot. We do have capsules for those people who don't like liquid, but 95% of the population will be taking the oil. And as you can see, it ticks all the boxes, and all of our products are Informed Sport approved, which is extraordinary. Now, this is unique, AquaX. The omega-3 industry have not addressed that people with no gallbladder or chronic liver disease or bariatric surgery, they don't metabolize fat. They're not absorbing fat well into their body. So this is incredible product where it's a patented aquacell that gets added to the formulation and it allows the oil to disperse into micro droplets, and then it becomes 10 times more absorbable by the body. And that is incredible and very unique to Zinzino. We also have a vegan oil. So if you're allergic to seafood or you're plant-based, vegan, vegetarian, this is made from microalgae with also the olive polyphenol. So all of our products are made with the highest quality, and as you can see, ticks all the boxes. So you have nothing to be concerned about. And I often get asked, Margie, how soon can I put my child on the balance oil? Now, as a midwife, I'm extremely passionate about educating in the preconception and pregnancy space because that's when the baby's neural pathways are being developed. So if a mother is deficient in omega-3, so is her baby. And there is a correlation, we know, between mothers with low DHA value, not just with early preterm birth, but also autism spectrum, ADHD, and of course, that mother is more at risk of postpartum depressive symptoms. Now, when a mum is pregnant and breastfeeding, we get them to take an extra 3 mils of balance oil a day. And as soon as the baby's off the breast, then we can give a child 0.2 mils per kilo up to 40 kilos. So all the way from birth through to death. A lot of oldies tend to slow down, and the reason they become less mobile is because they're in chronic pain. They've got chronic joint pain. When we give them this balance oil, it starts to free up the joints very quickly, and it reduces the chronic pain. So they start moving more. And when people move more, they live longer. So we've helped all ages. And this is, I'm using this example I want to share with you, a young 8-year-old boy. This is quite shocking to see ratios this high. And this is from a family who their mother and the family eat extremely well. Okay, they purchase a lot of whole foods. They're not eating a lot of processed and ultra processed foods. This little boy's AA, which is arachidonic acid, omega-6 is not high, but he has a distinct deficiency in omega-3. And this is what we're measuring. And if you do get the test, we will offer you a complimentary follow-up call to run through these results in detail with you so you can understand. But no wonder this boy was not coping well at home or in the classroom because he was struggling neurologically with his deficiency. His omega-3 index is extremely low. Now, I did mention before about the correlation between pregnancy and low DHA and autism spectrum. We have an enormous amount of children who are struggling and on the spectrum with autism and ADHD. This is just an example of a boy from Europe. We were allowed to share his test results in cooperation with the family and the school, just to show you that we see extraordinary results with children, non-verbal even, who are speaking within taking the balance oil 7 to 12 days. I mean, it is incredible. So if you do know people who need help, we would love to get them tested and share this incredible transformation. And of course, as you're reading while I'm talking to you, this boy's life has changed for the better. And that we see this over and over again. So we can make 18 European Food Safety Authority claims, which is amazing in itself because that's an incredible governing body. So we can improve brain health, heart health, immune function, normal vision. As I said, even my mother's vision improved. She started crocheting at night without her glasses. She also normalized her blood pressure. After 9 months, she came off her medication that she'd been taking for 50 years, which is incredible. So many claims that we can make there. Now, there is one other product we have here in Australia that I want to talk to you about quickly before we close the session, and that's called Zinzino, because everybody is talking about gut health, and everybody thinks that probiotics are the bee's knees. But probiotics is something unique to all of us. We all have our own species, and what we're doing at Zinzino is talking about prebiotic fibers, which is very different to probiotics. Probiotics do very little for your lower digestive tract, which is where your most of your microbiome are housed. And for you to have good gut health, you need to have a healthy microbiome. So instead of adding sterile species to your gut, which is unique to you, that you can develop resistance to, we would prefer you to understand that you need to feed your unique species of probiotics that will then flourish, grow, and become more abundant, and that will turn your negative environment in your gut to a gram positive environment. And that has a very interesting conversation then for your body to say, be healthy, because your microbiome and the healthy bacteria are also signaling to the brain through the gut-brain connection. So if you don't have enough healthy bacteria in your gut, in your microbiome is more powered by negative bacteria, then you're not going to feel as well, you're not going to think as well, okay, because most of our serotonin is produced. It's a happy hormone in the gut, and most of your immune cells are housed in the gut. So our job at Zinzino is, yes, to reduce chronic inflammatory stress in the cells, but also to reduce inflammation in the bowel. And when we do that, by giving you 1 scoop of Xenobiotic a day, that can make you take leaps and bounds in the right direction for your health by creating healthy bowel. Because let's think about it. All of us at some stage have had antibiotics, eaten processed foods, stressed, taking medication, all of those things. Maybe you were born by cesarean section or you didn't get breastfed. All of those things have an impact and influence in the significance of your microbiome, and they're destroyed. Now, as I said, the vast majority of us are not eating enough fiber. So Zinzino came up with this prebiotic fiber blend to bridge that nutritional gap. So what we do is give you that scoop, and it's a flavorless, heat-resistant, gluten-free formula. When you just add 1 scoop of this a day, you are changing the dynamics of your bacteria. And all of a sudden, this warfare of good and bad bacteria are under control, and you've got more healthy bacteria, so you become a healthier version of yourself. So as I said, it's gluten-free. It's from gluten-free beta-glucans, and it is 8 soluble fibers. The scientists remarkably have worked out the transit time of fermentation of each fiber through the bowel, so the entirety of your colon is being fed healthy bacteria. It is extraordinary. I take it every day. I put it in my yogurt. I put it in my smoothies. It is absolutely beautiful. So that's the range that we have here in Australia. I've talked about the balance test. We have a vitamin D and a HbA1c, which is the long-term blood sugar. I've mentioned the formulations, the Xenobotic, and of course we have a beautiful skin serum that works on restoring the extracellular matrix from the outside in, where the oil and the Xenobotic works at improving your skin from the inside out. So that is the range. So I hope that that has helped you understand more about these incredible products at Zinzino. And if you would like to know more, please get back to the person who has invited you to the call so we can share more information with you. Thanks for joining.